What we're going to cover now are the three different types of references in Excel. There's the relative reference, the absolute reference, and then the mixed reference. The mixed reference is kind of like a mixture of the relative and the absolute reference, and that will make more sense when we get to it. So we're going to explore these three different types of references, and once you know how to use them, you'll be able to integrate them into writing and using formulas and functions, and of course some other areas as well. So the spreadsheet you need is the references spreadsheet. So go ahead and click on that button in the navigation pane. Now just to let you know, there will be a little bit of formula writing in this tutorial and in the follow-up exercise, but this should serve as a good start in this particular area. Okay, so this is the scenario. We have these three tables here, one for units sold, one for unit price, and one for gross revenue. And what I need to do is just write out some simple formulas in each of these three columns here to work out what the gross revenue is for each mode of transport for each month of the year. So let's go ahead and write out the first formula. So when it comes to writing formulas in Excel, it always begins with an equal sign. So that will go in. And what I want to do is just get the first cell reference here for units sold for cars in month 1. My multiplication operator will go in, and I'll go get the unit price for cars. And now our formula is ready to go, so I'll just press enter. And here is our gross revenue. Now if I really wanted to, I could go through each of these cells here and write out the formula on an individual basis. But I can tell you there's a far easier way of taking care of this, and that would just be by using autofill. So I'm going to come to the bottom right here until I get this little black drag handle cross. And I'll click, hold, and drag and pull down my column. And as you can see, we have all of these answers that have shown up. But I can see there's quite a few zeros in the data. And I think that quite possibly something has gone wrong. So let's find out what the problem is. So I'm going to double click on one of these here to reveal the formula. So I can see that the blue cell referencing is moving down this column here, which is exactly what I want it to do. The problem really lies with the red cell referencing. Preferably, I would need that to stay in this cell here. So how can we remedy this? Well, we can use an absolute reference. So what I'll do is I'll just select this data here and press delete and start the formula once again. So my equal sign will go in. I'll go get the month 1 of sales for cars. Then multiply that by the unit price for cars. And with my mouse cursor, I'm just going to come in between the H and 16. And I'm going to put a dollar sign in there. And then before the letter, I'm also going to put a dollar sign in there. And basically, this has turned the red cell reference into an absolute reference. So let's see what happens now when I press enter. Well, first of all, my answer shows up, and that looks good. And once again, I'll use autofill. And I can see that the answers are looking more realistic now. But let's just double check on one of them just to make sure that the referencing is correct. So we go for this one here. Okay, so I can see that my relative referencing, which is the blue colored referencing, is working exactly the way I want it to work. And also the red reference for unit price is staying exactly where I want it to stay. So everything looks pretty good at the moment. So let's move on to motorcycles and repeat that process. I'll put in my equal sign. I'll get the first month of sales, multiply that by the unit price. And this time, instead of using my mouse cursor, I'm going to press F4 on my keyboard once. And as you can see, it's changed my reference into an absolute reference. On a Mac, that would be Command plus T, and the exact same thing should happen. Now, if I were to press F4 again, you can see the dollar sign starts to move around between the rows and the columns, and then it goes back to a normal reference, which is a relative reference. And I'll press F4 again, and you can see it's gone back to absolute. And so just by using the F4 key, I'm able to turn my reference into an absolute reference. So I can press enter, and now I can just click, hold, and drag and pull down the column. And I'll double click on the last answer here just to make sure that the referencing is correct. And it looks like it is, so we can move on to bicycles. Okay, so let's do that one last time. I'll press equals. I'll go get the first month of sales for bicycles, and then I'll multiply it by the unit price. Now the thing is with using an absolute reference for this particular table, I mean the absolute reference is perfectly good, it works perfectly well, but in all honesty, all I need to use is a mixed reference. And so what I'll do is I will press F4 twice until I get the dollar sign before the number 18. And basically this means that my red cell reference will not move up and down, but it can still move left and right. But because I'm not moving left and right, I don't have to stop it from going left and right. I just have to stop it from going up and down. So that's why I have to lock the rows in place. So I'll press enter, and I'm going to come to the bottom right hand side of my cell, and instead of click holding and dragging, I'm going to double click. And that will send the rows down the column. Okay, so let's take a look at the last answer here by revealing the formula, and I can see that all of the referencing is correct. Okay, so we're not going to just leave it here. We're going to move on to the next tutorial where I'm going to show you how you can fill in a whole table like this in 2 simple moves. So to do that, we will have to transpose our tables. Basically, this means we're going to change our rows into columns and our columns into rows. And if you don't understand what that means at the moment, don't worry, it will make more sense when you see it. Alright, so like I said in the previous tutorial, I wanted to transpose my table. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit, not too far because I still need to get this table here. And I'm going to select this table on the left. I'll hold down Ctrl+C to copy it. And I'll put my cell down here. And instead of Ctrl+V to paste it in, I'm going to come to the paste drop down here, and I'm going to click on transpose. So I'll just click on that there. And now I'm going to press escape to get rid of the marching ants. Okay, so as I said in the previous tutorial, when you transpose, you are changing the rows for the columns and the columns for the rows. And I'm sure you can see how this works now. Okay, so now that we have this table here, I'm going to select it, hold down Ctrl+C, and I'm going to come down to about here, Ctrl+V to paste it in. So we're not going to transpose this time, we're just going to copy and paste. Then I'm just going to select this data here and press delete. And now we can make a start. So like I said, I wanted to fill in my table just with 2 moves. And this is only possible because of the absolute reference. Actually, in all honesty, we'll be using a mixed reference to do this. So anyway, let's go ahead and write out the formula. So we already know the formula, but this time we're not going to reference this table up here at the top left. We're going to reference this table below. So I'll get the first month of sales for cars. Then I'll multiply it by the unit price. And pressing F4 on my keyboard, or Command+T on a Mac, all I want to do is just make sure that the cell referencing for the red cell doesn't go left or right. I still want it to go up and down, but just not left and right. So that means I have to lock in the columns. So I've got to make sure that the dollar sign is put before H. So now what I can do is I can press enter. There's my answer, and I will format it into a currency in a second. And like I said, in 2 moves, I can fill in this whole table. So there's move 1. And you can see the answer here is 146037, which is the same as this here. So I can see it's accurate. And with this selected, I can just come to the bottom right here and click, hold, and drag. And as you can tell with this answer here, it is the same as this answer here. So you can see in 2 moves, well actually to be honest with you, it's probably 3 if you include writing the formula. But in terms of autofill, it only took 2 moves to fill in this whole table here. So the last thing I want to do is just come to the format painter. So I'm copying the format from this cell here. And I'm just going to click, hold, and drag over this whole range of data and change everything into currency. So as we go through this course, we will be using these different types of references. But hopefully you have a bit more of a better understanding of how they all work now. But now, to test your knowledge, we are going to do a small exercise. So if you just scroll down in the spreadsheet, I have the small table that I've put together and a text box here with the instructions for the exercise. But these are just the instructions. I will show you what to do in the next video, which will also be the solution video. So I'll see you in the next one.